Calling all authors, the Your Book, Your Voice podcast with host Robert A. Lane features everything you need to know about narrating your audiobook, but it doesn't stop there. We have special guests lined up from all aspects of the book publishing industry, and we also dive deep into what it takes to be mentally prepared for success as an author and in life. So please welcome your host, Robert A. Lane.
Hey, my friends, how are you today? This is the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. I'm your host, Robert A. Lane with Robert Lane Coaching. We're streaming live on the Bold Brave TV network. Appreciate you tuning in. If you are tuned in for the first time, quick introduction about who I am and what I do. I am an audiobook coach and producer, and I specialize in helping nonfiction authors. Hopefully you're a nonfiction author who has a published book. Turning that great published book of yours into an audiobook that you, as the author, narrate in your own voice. I have an audiobook coaching program, which is also called Your Book, Your Voice, where I take you, as the author, through the process of turning your book into an audiobook from setup and preparation, which involves setting up your own recording space. Then we move on to showing you and teaching you how to do a great narration, how to be engaging and compelling and keeping your listener on the edge of their seat from opening credits to closing credits. And then, of course, we get you published on the AAA. And the AAA is Audible, Amazon, and Apple Books. Those are the three distribution platforms you absolutely need to be on, because that's where most of the general public go to first. Granted, there are other distribution platforms that you can be on, but those are the main three that you really should have your audiobook on. And then we also talk about marketing strategies and things of that nature as well in the audiobook coaching program, which is only 6 weeks. So you can have your book narrated, published in 6 weeks. So it's a really great thing. So that's what I do as an audiobook coach and producer. And I also do all the editing for you, make sure your files meet the exact specifications for publication so you're never rejected, and you're good to go. So that is, again, what I do as an audiobook coach and producer. So today's show, we're going to talk about audiobook misconceptions and how to do it right the first time, right? You want to get this right. You want to do it right the first time. But we're going to hit on some audiobook misconceptions. And I want to clear the air on this because it'll really help you as an author be able to narrate your audiobook, again, doing it right the first time and having the right tools to do a great narration. Whether you've have experience as a public speaker, or maybe you've done some kind of speaking engagements or that kind of thing, or maybe you never have. It's okay. Either way, you can still do a great audiobook narration. So I was giving this a lot of thought, and I think with all the authors that I've spoken with and those that have gone through the program, we're going to divide it up into two basic camps. Okay, so the first camp is the piece of cake camp. Piece of cake. How hard can it be to narrate an audiobook? And on the flip side, the other camp would be, oh, this is hard as hell. This is the hard as hell camp. Man, I don't know if I can do this. My voice, I don't like my voice. There's so much involved there. It just seems very overwhelming. I don't have the time. It seems like a hassle, on and on and on. So those are the two basic camps. And there's a lot of audiobook misconceptions that encompass those two camps. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the piece of cake camp, right? Piece of cake. Well, let's say this. The first audiobook misconception is that piece of cake. How hard can it be to grab my phone and set it on, voice memo, and set it down, hit the record button, grab my book, open it up, and just start narrating, start reading. How hard can that be? Well, that's not the way to do it. That is a misconception because, first of all, you have to have the right equipment, right? You don't want to just set your cell phone up and hit the record button on voice memo and start narrating your audiobook. It has to be much more better quality than that. Okay, so that's one aspect, and we'll talk a little bit more of that as we go along. But again, that is a misconception. It's not just hitting record and just starting to read and then you're done. Because again, there are a lot of moving parts when it comes to making an audiobook, creating an audiobook, and especially when you are voicing and narrating your own audiobook. It is a process. Okay, something to think about as well. People who do TEDx talks or keynote speeches or even other creatives, because, well, you as an author, you are creative. You're a very creative person. You wrote a book, even if it's a nonfiction book, that's okay. It's still a creative process. But, using other creative people like singers and bands and musicians or painters or other artists, before they go on stage and perform, for example, if a singer or band, or even somebody who does speaking engagements like TEDx talks or just TED Talks or, keynote speeches and that kind of thing, I guarantee you, no matter how professional they are, they're going to practice. They're going to warm up. They're going to get themselves in the right frame of mind. They're going to do things, and they have a system or a routine or a regiment that they put themselves through to get themselves mentally and physically prepared to perform, to do a great keynote speech or TED Talk, or to do a great performance. I guarantee you, no matter how professional the speaker is or the singer is, they're going to warm up. They're going to spend time warming up their voice, warming up their body, getting, again, mentally focused before they go out on stage and before they do their thing. Because as the listener of your audiobook, or as the person who is watching this concert performance, or as the person who's sitting in the audience waiting for this great TED Talk or this great keynote speech, what that audience is expecting is you to be on top of your game. You have to be on top of your game. You need to walk out there and be ready to go. Just like a musician. You don't want to hear them warming up for the first half hour of their set, right? They have to come out there and be right on top of their game and ready to give the best performance that they absolutely can give. And it's the same concept and the same analogy when it comes to narrating your audiobook. So there is preparation and there is practice, going over the songs that an artist is going to perform, going over the main points of a keynote speech or a TED Talk. I guarantee you, no matter how professional these speakers are or artists or performers are, they're doing what it takes to be on top of their game and give the best performance that they possibly can. Because you know what? Their audience deserves that. And with you narrating your own audiobook, your listener deserves the best. And I know that you, being a nonfiction author, if you've got a great book that's published out there, I guarantee you that you didn't cut corners. I would say 99.9% of the authors out there who have published a great nonfiction book didn't cut corners. You went through the process of writing a great book. Maybe you hired a book coach and you also hired and had a great team of people put together, an editor, a proofreader, maybe a story developer. Again, as I mentioned about a book coach, a formatter who's going to format your book into the right format for paperback and hardcover and ebook. Cover design, of course, that's part of your author brand, all these things. And so you hire a great team of people because you want to do the best that you can. And it's no different when you're doing your audiobook. You need to put a good team of people behind you to make sure that you're doing a great audiobook narration. And even if you do have some experience speaking, it is really great to have a coach or a mentor or somebody who, is a professional and is, better at it than you are, who can give you some great pointers and teach you some really cool tools and techniques to do a great audiobook narration. So the piece of cake camp, it's more than just hitting the record button and narrating your book. That is a misconception. It's an audiobook misconception. You have to put in the work, but you can do it. You can do it. But you just have to make sure that you're just not, hitting the record button and thinking it's just going to be great. Another thing, as I mentioned about, using your cell phone as your microphone, you do have to have great equipment. Okay, you don't want to record your audiobook on cheap equipment. And that is a misconception. Oh, I could just get, some cheapy, $50 mic or a lavalier mic or even a $100 mic. Yeah, it's good enough. It'll be fine. That's not the way you want to approach this. And again, it's cutting corners. You don't want to cut corners. You didn't cut corners when you wrote your book, so you're not going to cut corners. I hope you don't cut corners when you do your audiobook. It's got to be professional all the way around. Because remember, you are an author. This is your brand. This is what represents you and what you're all about as an author, as a writer. Okay, your product, being your ebook and your paperback and your hardcover and your audiobook, need to be top notch. You don't want to put cheap products out there. You don't want to have something that is going to not represent how great you really are as an author, how great your book really is, how great your audiobook can absolutely be. Okay, so remember, good equipment, great equipment does make a huge difference. And of course, your recording space makes a huge difference as well. So, just saying any kind of mic will do and I can just record it anywhere is a misconception. You do have to have a good space and decent equipment, good equipment to record your audiobook. Another misconception is, again, we're talking about the piece of cake camp. We'll get to the hard as hell camp in just a bit. But the piece of cake camp, another misconception is, I can just edit it myself. I'll just go in and, oh, I made a mistake. I'll clean that up or whatever. Well, there's more involved in the process of creating an audiobook because you have to meet the exact specifications that Audible, Amazon, and Apple, for example, have for publication. If you don't know audio, right, and you don't know the specifications that they're asking and those requirements, and they are very specific. If you are not following their specs, your audiobook will be rejected. I'm going to share a story with you. I don't think I have enough time to do it now because we are coming up to a break soon, but I do want to share a story with you about an experience of an author who did go through the Your Book, Your Voice audiobook coaching program and recorded his audiobook in a supposedly professional studio. We'll get to that story in just a second. But again, I just want to stress the fact that thinking that you can edit yourself, that's a misconception because you really need to have a professional go in, clean up your audio, and make sure it does meet the exact specifications for publication, because that is so crucial. You don't want to put in all this work of recording your audiobook, doing a great narration. You're like, this is great. I'm so proud of my work. This is exactly how I want to be. And then you submit it and it gets rejected. That's a soul crusher. That is a soul crusher. You don't want that to happen. All right. Another piece of cake camp misconception is, you know what? They're just going to love my voice. They're going to love my voice. Well, it takes more than just, again, reading your book and narrating. There are factors that you need to incorporate. And we're going to dive into that because we are going to also talk about how to do it right the first time. We're going to get into that in just a second. We got to take a break. I do want to share that story about the author who had an experience about recording his audiobook. We'll get to that in just a bit. This is the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. I'm your host, Robert A. Lane with Robert Lane Coaching. You can go to robertlanecoaching.com to find out more about what I do as an audiobook coach and producer and find out more about the Your Book, Your Voice audiobook coaching program. We're streaming live on the Bold Brave TV network. If you'd like to participate, you can type in the comments, or you can also give us a call. I'll give you that phone number when we come back. Don't go away.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
All right, welcome back to the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. I'm your host, Robert A. Lane, with Robert Lane Coaching. RobertLaneCoaching.com is my website, and that's where you can find out all the great information about the Your Book, Your Voice audiobook coaching program, which I teach, helping nonfiction authors turn their book into an audiobook that you, as the nonfiction author, narrate. The simple step, if you are interested in finding out more information about the audiobook coaching program, one simple step that you can do is just schedule a call with me. Do an audiobook consultation call with me. Would love to talk with you and find out more about your book, and of course share with you more information about the Your Book, Your Voice audiobook coaching program. And here's the link, by the way. It is bit.ly/audiobook onboarding. That's bit.ly/audiobook onboarding. Schedule your call. Would love to speak with you and find out more about your book. And again, of course, talk to you about the Your Book, Your Voice audiobook coaching program and how you can narrate and be published by the end of the 6-week program. The other thing that I wanted to share with you, of course, and this is for everybody as well, is that I do have a freebie I want to give you for just tuning in, and that is an audiobook narration reference guide, which has some cool pointers, both from the practical standpoint, mic placement and that kind of thing, hydration, posture, things that you need to do a great narration, but also the intangibles about talking about emotion and energy and how to be consistent. A lot of cool tips in that downloadable reference guide. So please grab a copy. It is, here's the link. It is another bit.ly link, which is bit.ly/narration reference guide. Again, that's bit.ly/narration reference guide. Grab yourself a copy of that. And of course, you can always go to robertlanecoaching.com. There's plenty of buttons there for you to book your call and to grab your narration guide as well. But I do appreciate you hanging out. Again, if you are catching here the live stream on Bold Brave TV, you can give us a call as well. We do have a call-in number that's there on the screen for those of you who can see that. If you're listening to us audio only, that number is 1-866-451-1451, if you'd like to give us a call. All right, so I do want to share with you that story about an author who went through the Your Book, Your Voice audiobook coaching program, and how important it is to make sure that you have once you record your audiobook, that you have a professional audio editor, who can help you not only clean up your audio, but make sure you meet the exact specifications for publication. So there was an author that I helped him with one of his books. He has 6 books that he's written. So we have more books to do, which I'm excited to work with him again. But his first audiobook that he did, he had a friend who had a recording studio down the street. So he went there and again, just did his narration without any coaching about, being authentic and conversational and engaging and all those things that are things that I teach in my program. But he just went in there and did his thing and thought he had his audiobook done properly. So then he submitted it for publication into Audible, Amazon, and Apple Books. Unfortunately, he got rejected. Audible, Amazon, and Apple rejected his audiobook. There was some kind of buzzing noise or some kind of sound in there that was throughout his entire audiobook. And he went back to the studio and they tried to figure it out and fix it, and it kept getting rejected. And then I think finally, he found a way. Spent a lot of money, actually, extra money that he shouldn't have been able or shouldn't have had to have done. But he did figure it out, and eventually that audiobook was accepted. But he didn't want to go through that again. So when I met up with him and we talked and he shared that experience with him, I told him, look, I guarantee that you're 100%, you are 100% guaranteed to be published, no doubt, when you go through the program. So, which he was. So I worked on his book, and it was a great experience. He had no issues, and he was very happy with the experience. But just bring that up because, again, the misconception, since we are talking about audiobook misconceptions and how to do it right the first time, you really have to make sure that your audio files are perfect, or as perfect as they can be, which means meeting the exact specifications for publication. So if you're thinking about editing your own audiobook and then just submitting it, unless you're an audio guy, you're going to have issues, and you want to avoid that. And that's where it does become a hassle, and when it does become overwhelming. All right. So just a couple of other things under the 2 camps that we're talking about, which is the piece of cake camp, which is like, how hard can it be to record your own audiobook? Or the other camp, which is, oh, this is hard as hell. Oh, I don't think I'll ever do this. So let's clear a couple more of these misconceptions, and then we'll dive into ways that you can do a great audiobook in your own voice and have it sound fantastic and not have any of the issues of being rejected by Audible, Amazon, or Apple. All right. By the way, if you want to share what your nonfiction book is about, I'd love to hear about it. You can type it in the comments if you'd like to do so here on the Bold Brave TV YouTube channel. All right. So let's see. Oh yeah, I was going to talk about voice. Another misconception is, hey, you know what? I have this great book. I have a lot of people that they've purchased my book. I have a lot of followers, readers. They enjoy my book. I'm going to narrate my own book, and I'm the one take wonder. I can go there and just do it in 1 or 2 takes. Hey, it's my voice. They already love my book anyway. They're going to buy my audiobook. All right. Well, that's a misconception because it's not one take wonder. You are not a one take wonder. Even professionals who do this for a living are not one take wonders. Okay, they will do a variety of takes. For example, a voiceover artist who does characters for anime, or a narrator or a voiceover person who does radio commercials, or anything like that. They're going to give different variations of how they say their narration, or what they're talking about, or how they're delivering their lines for the commercial or for a voice. And they're going to have a director, right? The director is going to say, I want you to try it this way or that way, or change your energy here, or do that. So it's not one take wonder. Okay, it never is. I recorded my audiobook for my book, which is Lights Action You. Is a book that I wrote. I guess we're coming on 2 years now. Wow, time flies. But again, it wasn't a one-take wonder, and I have a lot of entertainment industry experience. I worked in the business for 30 plus years in a variety of facets of the business, starting off in radio and doing voiceover and commercials and hosting talk shows and music shows and doing all that. But still, it takes time to develop the skill. But it's not one take wonder. And that is such a misconception. It's going to take you time. You are going to make mistakes. Okay, you can't just sit there in one setting and record your audiobook and be like, oh, this is perfect. It was consistent from opening credits to closing credits. My voice was perfect all the way through. My book is 130 pages. There are books that are much longer than that. And even this book, only being that length, can be very taxing and vocal fatigue on your voice. If you try to sit there and do it for 2, 3, 4 hours at a time, trying to knock out your book, you have to pace yourself, and you have to give your body a chance and your voice a chance to rest, relax, because you do want consistency. And again, when it comes to how to do it right the first time, consistency is key. You want to be consistent from opening credits to closing credits. Okay, so we spent time talking about audiobook misconceptions, and the two basic camps being piece of cake camp, right? So let's talk just a little bit about the this is hard as hell camp. And I hear a lot of excuses, and I hear a lot of reasons, and I do call them excuses because a lot of them really are. The biggest one is, oh, I hate my voice. I don't like how I sound. I don't have, I just don't have what it takes to narrate my own book. Or the other big one I hear is, I don't have time to do it. It's very overwhelming. I got too many things on my plate. I got too many irons in the fire. I don't have time to do it. And it's just too hard. It's just too hard. So that is a misconception, because first of all, as a nonfiction author, you've written this great book. It is in your unique style. Your voice literally is in your written word. It's already there. Okay? Your style, your pacing, your energy, your purpose, your reason why, all those things come through in your written word. Okay? So when you narrate your own audiobook, you're just bringing all that to life in your own voice in audible form, so people can actually hear you say it, hear you tell your story in your own voice the way you intended to be heard, the way that you intend your book to be heard in your unique style is why you narrate your own audiobook, because you can do it. You really can do it. So the number one thing that you need to do is just love your voice. Okay? If you have hesitations about how you sound, you got to just embrace this awesome sound that's coming out of your body. You got to love your voice. You got to appreciate the sound. You got to appreciate the resonator, which is your head that helps create the sound that is coming out of your body. It's a beautiful thing. Love it. Embrace it. Appreciate it. You do have a great voice. And that is part of your author brand. Okay, you are an author, you are an author brand, you are a business. Okay, your author brand is your business. You are a professional. I have tons of catchphrases, and one of them is that. I never consider a nonfiction author who has a book published as a hobbyist. You are a professional, you're a hobbyist. So embrace your author brand. And with that comes the other catchphrase, you are the CEO of you, which means you are in charge of the decisions that you make about your author brand. Whatever decisions that you make, the buck stops with you. You got to take your author brand and your business very seriously. Don't consider yourself a hobbyist. Even if you have a day job, a 9-to-5 job, doesn't matter. If you're writing, if you are an author and you write, at nighttime and on weekends, that's okay. You are still a professional. Fingers crossed that one day you can just flip that around and your day job is your side hustle, right? And your author brand and what you do as an author is your day job, is your 9 to 5. That's what you spend most of your time doing. I thought about that a lot when I was working in the entertainment business. I worked, I think it's the last roughly almost 14 years of my career in the business was working at Fox Studios in Los Angeles on the studio lot. But there were other things that I wanted to do as a musician, as an artist, as a writer. And, it was like, how do I flip that around? And finally, I made the decision to do it. And here I am doing what I love doing. You can do the same thing too as an author brand. Okay. Love it. Embrace it. So love your voice. That's part of who you are. That's part of what makes you, you. Okay. And when it comes to time, all right, that is an excuse. I know you've heard this a million times, but hey, it's worth saying again. You have the same 24 hours in a day that everybody has around the world, okay? How you utilize that time makes the difference between success and failure. If you know how to prioritize your time and you are disciplined about it, you can do anything, okay? You can narrate your audiobook. You can go through the audiobook coaching program that I teach in 6 weeks. It may not sound like a lot of time, but you can do it. And there is a way to do it, and which is why I do what I do and the way I format the program. I'll talk more about that later on the podcast. We're going to take another quick break. You are listening to the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. We are streaming live on the Bold Brave TV network. Again, our topic is audiobook misconceptions and how to do it right the first time. We're going to dive more into that concept when we come back. Again, we're streaming live on the Bold Brave TV network. Appreciate you hanging out. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
It was almost instant, I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com. or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Hey, my friends, welcome back to the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. I'm your host, Robert A. Lane. I have a business called Robert Lane Coaching as an audiobook coach and producer. My website is robertlanecoaching.com. All the information about my audiobook coaching program, which is also called Your Book, Your Voice, where I help you as a nonfiction author turn your published book into an audiobook that you narrate yourself. And as I mentioned earlier, I will give you more details about the audiobook coaching program. But I want to get back to our topic today, which is audiobook misconceptions and how to do it right the first time. So we talked about the two basic camps of, Hey, it's a piece of cake. How hard can it really be? Well, doing an audiobook, of course, is a process. And to do it right, you have to go through the process and do it properly, because you don't want to make a mistake. You don't want it to sound bad. And you definitely don't want it to be rejected by Audible, Amazon, or Apple when you submit it for publication, like what happened to one of my clients when he tried to do his audiobook before he started to work with me. And then, of course, there is the hard as hell camp, which is making the decision to not do your audiobook because you think it's too overwhelming. Now, as an author, your brand, that is part of your product, right? Ebook, paperback, hardcover, audiobook. If you decide to not do an audiobook, you're doing your author brand a disservice, because you're ignoring, in a sense, this whole audiobook world, this market out there, this audiobook world that's been growing and expanding over the past several years. In 2019, audiobook revenue surpassed ebook revenue, and the gap continues to widen. That's how popular audiobooks are. And more people that I talk to, the first thing they ask for is, hey, is your book on Audible? Can I grab your book off of Apple? Can I go to Amazon and pick up your audiobook? That's what I hear a lot. And when it comes to your author brand, having an audiobook is such a great thing to have as part of your product arsenal. And the other good thing about it is that when somebody gets your audiobook, 9 out of 10 times, they're also interested in purchasing your ebook or paperback or even hardcover. I mean, there's a lot of people that I've talked to, and I do this too. When I have an audiobook, and if it's something that I just really enjoy, I'll grab the paperback as well. And because I like highlighting things and, marking things up in the book. And it's just a great way to listen and to read along at the same time. It's a great thing. And it's a great way for you as an author to boost revenue, right? If somebody buys your audiobook, they may buy your ebook, paperback, or hardcover, and then it also gives you a And there, all right, we're back. Sorry about that. The batteries died in my wireless mic. It happens, right? It happens. But that's what makes live streaming exciting, right? All right, but anyway, we are back. We are back. So again, as I was mentioning about using your audiobook and creating specials that you can do to boost revenue, offering your audiobook for free, and maybe having, saying, hey, if you buy my audiobook, I'll send you a free autographed copy, or you can get my ebook for free or for 99 cents or whatever it is, right? You can do a lot of great things with that. The other thing that is really good with having an audiobook and having that as part of your arsenal, aside from reaching out to a whole other audience, is this. If you've written a book, okay, and you maybe published it a year ago or 2 years ago or 5 or even 10 years ago, don't let your book die on the vine. Bring it back to life. And the best way to bring it back to life is to turn it into an audiobook. Because then you can do a whole relaunch of your book. And people who may not even know about your book and about you as an author, all of a sudden now you have this new audience of people who are rediscovering you. And if you have other books that you've published, they're going to be really interested in purchasing more books from you as the author. Great thing to do to, again, bring new life to a book that maybe you've published a while ago, okay? So when it comes to doing your audiobook, let's talk about doing it right the first time. Again, You cannot cut corners. That's such an important factor. You can't cut corners, all right? You have to make sure that everything is top notch. I mentioned earlier about when you wrote your book that you put together a great team of people to help you, editors and proofreaders and cover designers and all the people who are experts in their specific niche that can help you create your book. The same thing with an audiobook. You know, if you had a book coach, you should have an audiobook coach. You should have somebody that can help you through the process to make sure that you are consistent, to make sure that you're sounding great, that you are physically in the right space, and that you are mentally in the right space when it comes to recording and narrating your audiobook. So never cut corners. And that also comes to, and I know I mentioned this about microphones, you have to have good equipment. You can't cut corners on equipment. You've got to have great equipment, all right? And you have to have a great recording space. You have to have a space that you're comfortable with and somewhere that you will not be disturbed, that you can focus on doing what you need to do by narrating your own audiobook and taking away all distractions. If you have a room that you're comfortable with and that, okay, this is perfect, this is where I want to narrate my audiobook. And if there are other people in your home or maybe you have an office or somewhere, and tell them, just say, hey, the next couple hours I'm working on my audiobook, please don't disturb me. And remove all distractions, okay? For example, cell phone, right? Cell phone, throw it out of the room, toss it away. Don't have anything next to you that could distract you from the job at hand, and that's doing a great audiobook narration. If there are other things going on, if your dog or cat are in the room where you're recording, you know what? You're going to have to move them and put them in a different room because it will be a distraction and they will make noise. If your dog or cat, shakes their head and you can hear that collar, ringing, or if they're walking around, your microphone's going to pick it up, right? You don't want that in there because it's going to be a distraction. And honestly, those types of sounds and any ambient sounds that are interfering with your narration, that's going to be a red flag, especially when you submit it for publication, because it will get rejected. They're going to say, what is all this noise? What are all these extraneous sounds in the background? We can't have that. And your book will be rejected. And you don't want that. Okay, so be aware of your surroundings when you are recording your audiobook. Very important. Okay, be aware. And again, when we're talking about the physical aspects, make sure that you're hydrated, that you are, what's the word I'm trying to think of? I just left my brain. Hydration, though, is a good thing, of course. But posture thing. You don't want to be hunched over, whether you're standing, whether you're sitting, when you're doing your narration. Make sure you have good postural form because, when you're bent over or leaning over, you're not drawing in air into your lungs and your diaphragm, where you can be doing a much better narration when you are with a good postural form. When you're hunched over, you're making more effort for yourself, and what happens is that you'll get fatigued faster. Your voice will start to fatigue, and you're going to hear the difference. Okay, so as I mentioned about consistency, you need to be consistent from opening credits to closing credits, and that again now ties into not just the physical aspects, but the intangibles. The intangibles are the things that maybe you don't physically touch, but you can emotionally feel. And the first step is mindset. You have to be in the right frame of mind before you hit that record button. And like I mentioned earlier, you have to, first of all, be confident in your voice. And to be confident in your voice is to love and embrace the voice that you have. As I said, you have to be confident. You have to love the voice that you have, as that is part of your author brand. That is what makes you, you. And that uniqueness is all part of why you need to narrate your own audiobook, and why another narrator, no matter how great and professional they are, it's still not an accurate representation of who you are as an author. The other narrator will do a great job. If they're professional, they'll sound great, but it's still their interpretation. It's not your interpretation. You've written this great nonfiction book. You've put your heart and soul into it. You've experienced it. You've lived it. You've breathed it. It's all you. Everything that encompasses who you are and what makes you you and your uniqueness is in your written word. That's all there, and that's what you're bringing out in your audiobook narration, in your voice. You're bringing that all to the forefront. So when you're recording and narrating your audiobook, you have to be in the right frame of mind. All right. Be present, be focused, be in the now, and be tapped into your why. What is your purpose? Why did you write this book in the first place? All right. That's the intangibles that you're bringing forth. I want to talk a little bit more about the intangibles because that aspect is really, really important. And that's what separates a mediocre audiobook to a fantastic audiobook. We're going to dive into this a little bit more when we come back. You're listening to the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. I am your host, Robert A. Lane with Robert Lane Coaching. We're streaming live on the Bold Brave TV network. We're going to talk more about the intangibles when we come back, and then I'll give you more details about the Your Book, Your Voice audiobook coaching program. Don't go away.
Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. I'm Robert A. Lane with Robert Lane Coaching. You can go to robertlanecoaching.com to find out more about the Your Book, Your Voice audiobook coaching program that I teach, which takes nonfiction authors through the process of narrating your own audiobook from setup and preparation to narration to publication. And by the end of the 6-week program, your audiobook will be uploaded for publication into Audible, Amazon, and Apple. Of course, there are other distribution platforms, which we do talk about when you do enroll into the program, but we'll dive into that in just a little bit. I wanted just to touch a little bit more about how to do your audiobook right and the intangibles, which are key factors to doing a great audiobook narration. Bringing your energy, bringing your purpose, bringing your core reason of why you wrote your book. All that comes into play in your narration, because what that does is it brings forth your authenticity. You have to be you. You have to be yourself. You have to be authentic. And that's why when you narrate your own audiobook, you're not a poser. You're not faking it till you make it. you're being your authentic self. And that's why I say, love and embrace your voice, because that's all part of who you are. And that's part of your uniqueness. And, that's why I mentioned about, having a professional author narrate your audiobook. Why? When it's you that is going to tell your story the way you are intending the world to hear it. Okay. And of course, cutting corners, one way to cheapen your author brand is to, do AI. Having an AI voice narrate? Nah, you've just cheapened your author brand, because that is so not you. That is not an accurate representation of who you are. So you don't want to go that route. Okay. You just don't want to go that route. All right. The other thing is, again, when you're recording your audiobook, you got to hire a professional editor to make sure that all your audio files sound great, and that, again, they do meet the exact specifications for publication. All right. So important. All right. So important. But again, misconceptions. I talked about our two camps, the piece of cake camp and the hard as hell camp. Remember, it's not just a piece of cake. It is a process, but you can do it, and you do have the skill and you do have the voice to do a great audiobook narration. All right. So it may not be piece of cake, hit the button, record, and I'm done, because it is a process, but it's not hard as hell. It isn't. You can do it, and you do have time. And that's why when I created the Your Book, Your Voice audiobook coaching program, it's 6 weeks. It's not a lot of time. It doesn't take 6 months. It doesn't take 6 years. It doesn't take 3 months, right? You can get it done in 6 weeks. You really can. So let's talk a little bit about the program. The Your Book, Your Voice audiobook coaching program is a 6-week program where I do take you through the process of recording your audiobook. First thing is setup and preparation. I send you the professional equipment. Now, I mentioned, of course, misconception is I could just use any kind of mic and whatever and record. No, you have to have professional equipment. You have to have something like, like these great Shure MV7 mics that hundreds of podcasters use. That's like the go-to mic. Great microphone. That's what I send you. That's part of the audiobook coaching program, is me providing you with the equipment that you need, the professional equipment that you need to record. And I teach you and show you how to set up your own recording space. I show you how to set up your account for publication for Audible, Amazon, and Apple. We go through the entire process of setup and preparation. The next phase of the program is all the tools and techniques that you need to do a great audiobook narration, right? How to be authentic, how to be conversational, how to do a compelling and engaging narration, how to keep your listener on the edge of their seat from opening credits to closing credits. All the key factors, again, what I mentioned about the physical aspects, but most importantly, the intangibles, the things that you can't physically touch, but you can emotionally feel. So important. And the mindset aspect is very important, because we do talk about that in the program, how to be in the right frame of mind before you hit the record button. Once your audiobook is recorded, and as you go along, you are sending me your audio files for editing, because I'm not just an audiobook coach, I am a producer as well. I have 20 plus years experience doing audio editing. That's what I've done for a long, long time. It's part of what I did when I worked in the entertainment business. Done a lot of things in the entertainment business, but editing is one thing that I love doing, and that's what you get. So you don't have to find an editor to help do your audiobook. That's what you get as part of the program. All your audio post-production editing is included in the program. We upload your audio files for publication for you, so you don't have to worry about that process. And if there ever is any types of issues, we know about it right away. We know what the problem is. If there is one, we fix it, re-upload, it's done. So you are 100% guaranteed to be published on Audible, Amazon, and Apple. No question. And the beauty about going through the program is that you retain 100% ownership, royalties, rights, you name it, it's yours. The audiobook is yours, okay? And what makes the Your Book, Your Voice audiobook coaching program stand out among other production companies is you get the coaching. I'm there for you every step of the way throughout the process. Not only do we have our weekly one-on-ones, because we do talk and make sure that you are on track to reaching your goals of hitting that 6-week deadline to get your audiobook done. But I'm there for you for that. You get editing, you get uploading. There's video lessons for you. There are PDF download reference guides. There's a whole bunch of things that you get. So if you want to do your audiobook, I would love to work with you and help you with that. Book a call with me. It's that simple. All right. Book a call with me. Remember, action takers are success makers, and you want to be successful. So schedule your call, and you can go to robertlanecoaching.com. There are plenty of buttons there to book your call and to speak with me directly, because you will. I will talk with you directly. And I talk to every author before I enroll anybody into the program. I want to make sure that I resonate with you and you resonate with me, because we are having a business relationship that we're working together with, and you need to be comfortable with working with me, and I want to be comfortable working with you. So it's real simple. Go to robertlanecoaching.com for all the information about that. So I just wanted to share that with you. All right. And also you can download your audiobook narration reference guide. It's right there on the homepage. All right. So with that, my friends, we're wrapping things up here for the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. My assignment for you again is this: when you're out and about in the world, smile at a stranger, say hello to them, give them a compliment, because that 5 or 10 seconds of time that it takes you just to smile and say hello to somebody, that can be the world of difference in their life. And that can totally make their day. So my friends, go out there, be good humans, and we'll talk with you next week. I'm Robert A. Lane with Robert Lane Coaching. Go to robertlanecoaching.com for more information about the Your Book, Your Voice audiobook coaching program. We'll be back next week for another podcast here on the Bold Brave TV network. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon. Take care, my friends.
This has been Your Book, Your Voice with host Robert A. Lane. Tune in each week for another powerful and informative episode of Your Book, Your Voice, Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.